Turkey has a long, complex history of political parties with periods of political instability and military interventions which dramatically changed the political landscape of the country. In this episode, we will discuss the major turning points in the history of political parties in Turkey, and we will discuss current landscape of the political parties in the country. It's Ali Reza here, and this is Orient Report. The roots of political parties in Turkey can be traced back to the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The most important political party of the period was the Committee of Union and Progress (CUP), also known as the Young Turks, which quickly became an important actor during the late Ottoman Empire. By the end of the World War I, the Ottoman Empire lost a significant part of its territories, and its most important cities, including Istanbul and Izmir, which were called Constantinople and Smyrna at the time, were occupied by Allied powers. Eventually, the Turkish War of Independence, led by Mustafa Kemal Pasha, who was called Atatürk later on, was able to liberate most of the occupied territories, leading to the formation of modern Turkey in 1923. After the founding of the Republic in 1923, Atatürk became the first president and established the Republican People's Party (CHP). During Atatürk's presidency, a single-party policy was implemented and the CHP dominated Turkish politics for several decades. After the end of the Second World War, a multi-party period began, allowing the formation of opposition parties. Although many political parties were formed during this period, the Democrat Party (DP) was the first significant one, which won the 1950 election. Adnan Menderes, as the head of the Democrat Party, became the prime minister. Menderes, however, was toppled and executed as a result of a military coup in 1960. The coup of 1960 was the first of many military interventions seen frequently in Turkish politics ever since. Two major coups in 1971 and 1980 interrupted civilian rule and dissolved many political parties. 2 years after the coup of 1980, a new constitution was adopted, which is still in place after more than 4 decades. A relatively stable political landscape has emerged after 1982, yet many of the political parties of this period had a short life and were dissolved within few years. Some important parties of this period were the Motherland Party (ANAP), ANAP, True Path Party (DYP), and Welfare Party (RP), each playing crucial role in different stages after 1982. The most significant change in the history of the Turkish political parties in 1990s were the emergence of Islamist parties as well as few Kurdish nationalist parties. For instance, in December 1995 general elections, under the leadership of Necmettin Erbakan, the Welfare Party won the election by more than 20% of the vote. People's Democratic Party, also known as HADEP, HADEP, with Kurdish nationalist agenda, also won about 4% of the total votes. The major characteristics of the post-1982 was coalition governments which often had a short life and replace one another after internal disputes within the coalitions. Political landscape after 2001 entered a different phase with the rise of the AKP, Justice and Development Party, founded by Recep Tayyip Erdogan. In 2002 general elections, the AKP or AK Party won the majority of votes with about 35%, and Erdogan became the prime minister. With Erdogan's leadership, his party has won all the elections ever since. Although many opponents accused him of authoritarianism, Turkish politics had never witnessed such political stability in its modern history. In the general elections of 2023, the AKP once again won the election, and Erdogan's presidency was extended for another 5 years. According to the official website of the Turkish Supreme Court of Appeals, there are currently 136 registered political parties in Turkey. The oldest political party is CHP, which was founded almost a century ago, and the youngest party is called Justice and Liberty Party, founded 2 months ago in June 2023. 36 parties out of 136 were allowed by the High Commission of Elections to participate in the 2023 general elections. Among them, the AKP has the highest number of party members with more than 11 million people, while some parties have only a handful of members. In 2023 parliament elections, 15 parties were able to enter the parliament. AKP with 263 deputies ranked the first, while DSP, Democratic Left Party, was able to get only 1 seat out of 600. There are 5 major parties with the highest number of parliamentary members: AKP, CHP, MHP, E-Party, and Green Left Party. Many of these parties have shared political interests. It is really difficult to categorize these parties according to textbook definitions, since many parties lack clear political ideologies and often can exhibit unpredictable behaviors. However, to put in simple terms, the AKP can be considered as a conservative party, CHP is mostly supported by secular centrists, MHP advocates a far-right nationalism, E-Party is popular among moderate nationalists, and YSP is mostly voted by Kurdish nationalists, religious minorities, and extreme left groups. Political parties that could pass the set threshold in the parliamentary elections received a significant sum of financial assistance from the state budget. During the years when general elections are held, this budget can be tripled to cover the finances of political campaigns. In 2023, for instance, close to 5 billion Turkish liras were allocated to political parties. The smaller parties often object the threshold criteria since they do not receive any funding for their parties. Since 2018, the political landscape of the country had shifted to alliances between different political parties. CHP and E-Party came together to defeat the AKP and MHP alliance, which brought them some success in local elections but remained insufficient in general elections. Political alliances have allowed smaller parties such as BBP to take advantage of their limited voters and enter the parliament, which would be unlikely if they entered the race on themselves. They are also quite interesting political parties which were founded by former members of larger parties and received an unprecedented support from the voters. The most outstanding example is Muharrem İnce and Homeland Party, Victory Party led by Ümit Özdağ, and Sinan Oğan, a former member of MHP who had received an unexpected number of votes in 2023 presidential elections. The next round of elections in Turkey will be local elections in late March of 2024, where voters will choose city council members as well as mayors. With the 2 largest cities of Ankara and Istanbul held by the CHP, it would be interesting to see if President Erdogan and his party will be able to win local elections and take back these cities from his opponents. Thanks for watching and see you in the next episode.